Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Public Safety and Justice Affairs Committee meeting here in Cuyahoga County, Tuesday, November 15th. Roll call, please.
And just as a reminder to all who are in attendance, this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the county's YouTube page. Calling the roll, Mr. Gallagher.
Here.
Ms. Conwell.
Present.
Mr. Tuma.
Here.
Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones is absent at the moment. Ms. Simon. Ms. Simon is absent at the moment. There is a quorum. I'd also like the record to reflect that Councilman Miller is in attendance.
Mr. Miller, Mr. Jones, I heard, is on his way. Public comment?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Ms. Holly Fowler Martins.
Ms. Martin? Good afternoon. Did you press the button?
Good afternoon. Thanks for having us. I just wanted to say, my name is Holly Fowler Martins, and my husband and I have been supporters of the Bail Project since 2019, since its inception, and I appreciate you all considering the resolution today, Resolution 0397, in support of the Bail Project operations. We are part of the steering committee with Mr. and Mrs. Ratner, Cleveland Foundation, and United Black Fund that helped create the Friends of the Bail Project, which is housed at the Cleveland Foundation, of which the county has been supportive since December of 2020. So appreciate your ongoing support for this very important project. Thanks.
Thank you. Anything further?
No, Mr. Chair, no one else is signed in.
And Ms. Simon is in attendance. In your packets, you'll have the minutes of the November 1st meeting. If they're in order, I'll accept a motion and a second.
Make a motion.
So moved.
A motion and a second on the minutes. Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Thank you. Resolution 2022-0391.
Resolution number 2022-0391, awarding a total sum not to exceed $89,642.27 to the West Shore Council of Governments for the purpose of purchasing new and replacement equipment for the West Shore Technical Response Team from the District 1 and District 2 ARPA Community Grant Funds.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Council, for supporting us. Specifically, Councilman Miller brought this project to him several months ago. Has been very helpful seeing us through to this point. So what we are a specialty rescue team. We cover the west side of Cuyahoga County, including cities of Bay Village, Fairview Park, North Olmsted, Westlake, Rocky River, and Lakewood. We are a specialty team, so we're not the fire engines that show up at a typical house fire. We do everything above and beyond that. So we are trench rescue, structural collapse, dive, swift water rescue, flood, any of those things that wouldn't make sense to train every firefighter and engine crew out there to do. Came to Councilman Miller, asked him for this request for various pieces of equipment. I took over the team about a year ago. We did a capital study internally, found our deficiencies where we need equipment and PPE. So we developed a plan. This ARPA request potential came around, I submitted it, talked at length to Councilman Miller, and then came up with a list of priorities that we identified as a team, which brought us to here. So within this request, I'm not going to go into the nitty gritty of it, but our team is composed of 4 branches. It's a fire investigation unit, it is a water rescue, a land-based rescue, and hazardous materials response. In this request has items for each one of those teams and disciplines, and it will enable us to move forward purchasing these items in a bulk format, whereas our limited budget would have been stretched to 5-10 years out to kind of catch up. So these funds will allow us to now concentrate our funds towards needed purchases broken equipment, training costs that will allow us to move forward more quickly.
Captain, could we have your name for the record, please?
Sure. My name is Tim Draves. I'm a captain with the Fairview Park Fire Department and the West Shore team coordinator.
Questions from the committee? Mr. Miller, would you like to have a comment?
Yes, this equipment is very much needed so that the West Shore Technical Response Team can perform effectively throughout the West Shore communities, of which Lakewood is in my district and the remaining communities are in Councilwoman Baker's district. And I would just add that Councilwoman Baker is out of town and was not able to be here today, but she has expressed her very strong support for this project, and she has been an excellent collaborative partner every step of the way, and so the proposal is to do an even split. Half of the money for this project will come from District 1 and half will come from District 2. And I would greatly appreciate the committee's favorable recommendation for this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or concerns? If everything's in order, I would accept a motion for Resolution 2022-0391 to the full council for second reading.
So moved.
Second.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Chair? Is this
Yes, ma'am.
the final, is this all the funding that they needed for it, or if they still had needs for the project?
So this is what we came up. It's a pretty close to a 75-25 split, and this is what we could. That 25 is what we could move on right away. I know the compressed timeline with ARPA funds, so that's what we could commit to the project, and the essentially 90,000 is the money that we would need to push us over the hill.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I would add that we recommended this proposal at the full amount that was requested by the response team.
Further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Against? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, Councilman Miller.
2022-0397.
And also like the record to reflect that Ms. Turner is in attendance. Resolution number 2022-0397, awarding a total sum not to exceed $100,000 to the Bail Project Incorporated for the purpose of hiring an additional bail disruptor from the District 11 ARPA Community Grant Fund and a general fund made available by the American Rescue Plan Act Revenue Replacement Provision.
Thank you. This is the one we have the substitute on. I've got two.
I make,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, Jim Boyle, council staff. Again, the matter in front of you are 2022-0397, an ARPA award, proposed ARPA award to the Bail Project. There are, I believe, the clerk, there are two individuals from the Bail Project who will be appearing remotely via Zoom. I don't know if you have them up yet, but they should be ready. Bail Project is located, I believe, in Los Angeles, so obviously this is the best mechanism to get their presentation in front of the body. Also, I would turn your attention, Council President Jones is also adding some proceeds to the proposed ARPA award to the Bail Project. The dollar amount in the amended format should be $150,000 rather than, I believe, the $100,000 that you have in front.
Right, Mr. Jones is requesting the 50 it be added.
Yes.
So that would be the proposal. So if everybody's okay, I would like to move, the proposed substitute on Resolution 2022-0397 in replacement of the stated legislation.
So moved for the substitute.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussions?
No, just that's great. We're adding
Right.
additional
All in
funds.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Our working legislation will be the substitute as soon as are they ready?
They are on Zoom.
Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Hello? There you
You
are.
guys can hear me? Okay. You guys can hear me?
Yes, we got you now.
Okay. Sorry about that. Good afternoon, Chairman Gallagher and members of the Public Safety and Justice Affairs Committee. My name is Jeremy Page, and I'm the Ohio Operations Manager for the Bell Project. And I'm joined by my colleague, Jeremy Cheerson, who is the Senior Policy Advisor for the Bell Project. And we are very honored and very grateful for this opportunity to discuss our funding request and share more about our organization's efforts to serve low-income people in Cuyahoga County.
Thank you.
So
and
by way,
thank you and welcome. And that is Mr. Page and Mr.
Yes.
Pierce and Mr. Pearson.
Cheerson,
Cheerson?
yes, Cherson.
Thank you.
So by way of introduction, the Bell Project is a national nonprofit organization, and we provide free Bell assistance to thousands of low-income people every year while working to advocate for practical pretrial system reforms that minimize unnecessary incarceration and mitigate the use of unaffordable cash bail. Since we launched 5 years ago, we have opened local offices in more than 30 cities across the United States and served over 26,000 low-income clients in county. Our office in Cuyahoga County opened in August 2019, and as of October 2022, we've served more than 900 local clients. And our service model is just very straightforward. If a judge sets bail as a condition of release and the person cannot afford it, their family or a public defender can reach out to us for help. If eligible for our services, we will provide free bail assistance to the individual and upon release, help them navigate social services and community resources based on their identified needs. To that end, the Bell Project works with local partners that include the Alcohol, Drug, Addiction, and Mental Health Services Board of Cuyahoga County, Oriana House, Stella Maris, and Jordan Community Resource Center to address mental health needs. For housing assistance, we work with Meredith Taylor Human Services and also Signature Health. And every day we work to form more effective partnerships with providers across the county and across the state. We also provide our clients with court reminders and transportation assistance for the duration of their case, simple logistical interventions that are known to increase court appearance rates. And as our clients' cases close, the bail is repaid and can be recycled to help additional people. With our assistance, our clients can return home to their families, jobs, and communities while they attend to their court case. They are spared the traumatic impacts of pretrial incarceration, which can lead to employment loss, family separation, residential instability, and a worsening of physical and mental health conditions, all before they've even been convicted of a crime. They're also less likely to take a guilty plea simply to return home. Our services, which are completely free and voluntary, offer a practical method by which unnecessary incarceration can be limited and by which procedural justice can be improved with no known impact on public safety. In Cuyahoga County, our clients make 95% of their required court appearances, debunking the myth that people accused of crimes will not return to court unless they stand to lose their bail. 22% of our clients have had their cases dismissed, and 86% received no additional jail or prison time at disposition, which, absent our intervention, means both groups would have been incarcerated needlessly. Every single day, we are fortunate to have an immediate and direct impact on individuals and their families in Cuyahoga County. These are real lives, and here's just one example. One of our clients, Tierra, was pregnant and a mother to 3 small children when she was pulled over, then arrested and taken into custody because she had 2 outstanding warrants that she was unaware of. Her bond was set at $500, a seemingly small amount that was actually completely out of reach. Unable to pull together the money, she sat in jail and then was hospitalized for dehydration after correctional officers questioned her pregnancy and failed to provide her water. Our team posted her bail and she was able to return home healthy to care for her children and her baby. I could share hundreds of other stories just like Tierra's, and in many ways, these stories are the same. People are subjected every day in this country and in this county and across the country to what is effectively unnecessary incarceration with real impacts on their lives, their families, and our society as a whole. We are grateful to this county for recognizing the contribution we are making to our most needy residents. And with the county's ongoing support, we will be able to hire an additional bail disruptor so that we can help more people like Tierra thrive safely in community during the pendency of their case. We are very grateful for the county's early investment in our efforts back in 2020, and we greatly appreciate your consideration of this request for additional funding to sustain our work over the next year. Jeremy Cheerson and I thank you for your time today, and we'd be glad to take any questions at this time.
Chair.
Thank you, sir. And I'm sure we'll have a few questions, starting with the main sponsor, Ms. Simon.
Hello, thank you so much for being here today, Mr. Page. I appreciate it and love the work you're doing. I fully support this project, knowing that, you know, there's so much more we can be doing to help with, you know, unjustifiable pretrial detention at our county holding justice center jail. But my question for you is, you mentioned eligibility, and I wanted some detail on what that means when you actually get an application or a request for assistance. What do you look to determine whether your organization can support this particular requester?
No, thank you for that question, and thanks for supporting our work that we're doing. I'm glad that we're able to do it. And as far as eligibility is concerned, one of the things about the Bail Project is that anyone can be referred to the Bail Project, and we look at every single referral that we get. We give it thoughtful consideration before we make a decision regarding that bailout or being able to support that person. So to that end, we take referrals, as I stated, from public defenders, from the community, from potential clients who are in the jail. And once we get those referrals, we go through a process where we gather information just on any previous history that they have, what their support may need to look like as far as getting back to court or what it's looked like in the past before, what their charges are, and we look at it to see how we can support our clients. So that's really a big piece of the eligibility piece. And once we get through that part, and then bail amount also is a big piece of that. The judge sets the bail, so we don't even know if someone's eligible until their bail is set to even be able to start looking at them. Once their bail is set, once their bail is set and we go through that process, then we meet with our clients. So we go down to the Justice Center and we meet with our clients and we do an interview to get information on their needs and the support that they would need once they're released. We also see what their current support plan looks like once they're out, and once we feel that we can either establish a supportive support plan for that client, or if they already have one, along with any voluntary services that they request, then we lead towards the decision if we're going to make a bill out of
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'll come back with comments later.
it. Thank you.
Further questions? Yes, ma'am.
Through the chair to Mr. Page, and I may have missed this, I apologize. How long have you been in existence again?
The Bail Project as a whole has been in existence since 2018, and we've been in the Cleveland site since August of 2019.
Okay, my next question, are you keeping a report on who has been helped? Who have you helped?
Yeah, we
thus
have
far?
data on all of the clients that we help. That's how we're able to provide ongoing court support for our clients and ensure that they're making it back to their court dates.
And out of your estimation of the data that you've collected on clients, have any of them been recidivized or went back through the process again?
We have had clients that have gotten rearrested, unfortunately. So yes, to answer that question, we have.
And my final question at this moment is, what is the most a recipient can receive in terms of the bail amount?
The bail amount, we have different levels that we can approve within the organization. So we consider all referrals that come in Obviously, we want to help the most amount of people that we can, so we try to target those low income or lower set bail amounts. But we consider if it comes through and if there's a way that we can provide support and there's a lot of need there, then we consider our referrals that come.
So off the top of your head, what's the most that you've put toward someone's bail?
So I can tell you our Rangers bill in Cuyahoga County is the lowest that we've paid is $50, and the highest that we can approve that the team can approve at this time is $10,000.
And not a lawyer, so I'm just trying to go on my knowledge. It's 10% that they have to put up.
It depends, and we can do either.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Miller.
Mr. Chairman, first I'd like to commend you for the tremendous work that you do in helping get people to be released that are being incarcerated unnecessarily. I would like to take advantage of the fact that you're operating in 30 different cities. The statistics in Cuyahoga County are that something 75 to 80% of the people at the county jail are pre-sentencing, and I'm wondering whether that percentage is typical around the country, or is that higher than normal?
I don't have you mean within the Bail Project or just throughout the country as a whole?
I'm talking about within the cities that you're operating in.
Within the cities, I do not have that information on hand.
I've got that, Jeremy.
I can pass it to the other Jeremy.
Hi, everybody. Jeremy Church. I'm a senior policy advisor at the Bail Project. 70% is common across the country. What we're finding is that pretrial detention related to cash bail is one of the primary drivers of mass incarceration in counties and cities across the country. So 70% is basically a rough estimate that we're seeing everywhere.
Do you have an estimate of by what percentage we could reduce incarceration if we had a truly just pre-detention system?
The ACLU has done a cost-benefit analysis to try to look at the cost savings that would occur if Ohio State had enacted bail reform. And they estimate, I don't know the actual numbers that this would relate to, but it's a huge amount of money each year. ACLU is saying that holding people pre-trial costs $266 million to the state each year. A more conservative estimate from Buckeye Institute says that it's about $67 million a year, but somewhere in the middle of there. And what we understand is that, pretrial detention is extremely costly. There are much more effective, cheaper interventions. And the Bail Project is a humanitarian intervention. We're doing work that we would hope that the states and counties would find other interventions to work around. But for now, given that this is the only option that's available, we intervene the way that we do.
Looking at this from the standpoint of people, even more so than money, can you give some estimate of what percentage reduction in jail population might be achievable if we had a truly effective pre-trial system?
Well, we can definitely say for sure that the 900 or so people that we bailed out in Cuyahoga would be people that would likely have been released otherwise. But I think the actual estimates like that are very difficult to accommodate because state data is not available on the number of people that are held pre-trial and the number of people that are there because they have bail amounts that are unaffordable to them. But, we're talking about potentially, tens of thousands of people across the state, and significant portions. If we assume 70% of whatever the average daily population is in Cuyahoga County are there because they can't afford cash bail, then whatever 70% of that number is. I'm sorry, I don't know what the average daily population of the Cuyahoga County Jail is, but I would say there's a strong likelihood that you could probably safely release many of those people that are currently being held with limited interventions and support, and so they would safely return to all their court dates and not have any other future justice system involvement. And we can try to dig in on this question for you a little bit more, council member. We would need to get back to you with some of those specifics.
Well, thank you very much for that response, and I would appreciate any additional information that you could provide.
You got it.
Thank you. And this is for either of you. Just kind of following up on that, you said they safely return back to their cases. One of the things we hear in the community about the concern about someone being released and causing harm to the community before their trial date. What is your experience and the work that you've done? Tell us about the percentage of numbers who actually return back to the case. Are they do they cause harm to the community in the time while they are waiting for their trial and not being incarcerated as a result of your work? Tell us what your experience is.
I can speak to that. So I know, as I stated earlier, just with our court return rate, and as Jeremy mentioned, we have over 900 clients that's been released, and the court appearance rate is at 95%. So my experience with that just says that once we bail our clients out, they're not interested in, for the majority of them, they're just interested in going back to court and closing their case and doing that in the most timely fashion that they can. And especially with the supports that we provide. A lot of our clients that we work with have justice involvement, whether it's very little justice involvement or they've had like years of justice involvement, but when they work with us, they know that we want them to be able to move on to whatever is next for them. And that's what they want. So we haven't had a lot of experience with people getting out and doing worse things. I think I would need more context on what that would mean. I know there's a generalization of that, but our clients are really focused on getting out and making it back.
I think also to add, the return to court rate that we have in Cuyahoga County is something like 93%, which means that of all the court appearances that are available, they return 93% of them without incident. And that's a significantly high number. I think the difficulty with providing an answer straightforward about this is that there's no comparison data made available on who gets arrested or rearrested pretrial. But what we know is that our clients return to 93% of their rates. That's a significantly high number of court appearances that are met. I also would like to add that, we are not unconcerned with public safety. We're not an organization that doesn't concern ourselves with it. That's why we have adopted a model that uses individualized needs assessments like Jeremy was talking about, where we try to determine what unmet needs exist. We understand those unmet needs to be precursors for justice system involvement in the future. And so if we can meet those needs while people are in community, avoiding the traumatic impacts of incarceration, then we potentially both avoid those terrible consequences of being incarcerated, and we also help people. And I think that what we're trying to demonstrate with our work is that you can do that. You can release people, you can connect them to the services that they need, and that they'll be much more successful pretrial than people that don't receive that kind of support. And I think we don't want to overstate or overplay the dangerousness argument here. People, by and large, return to their court rates. They stay out of trouble when they are released. Those things happen inevitably. We can't control people's behavior. This intervention isn't like that. That's not what we do. People do what they do, but we are doing our best to try to protect people and to protect communities and to help people get the needs that they, their unmet needs met while they're released.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, through the chair, I'll just say to Jeremy. As far as Cuyahoga County goes, what made your organization choose Cuyahoga County, and what goes into choosing a community in which to work towards the bail reform? Is there anything in particular, or are these just large areas that you guys look at?
I can jump in. I think, by and large, we've tried to pick a diverse number of places that represent diversity across the United States. So we wanted to pick Midwestern states. We wanted to pick Southern states. We wanted to pick places on the East and West Coast. And we tried to look at a variety of social contexts that factor into that, places where there is a high level of pretrial incarceration, where there are disproportionate impacts on people of color, where there are a variety of urban versus rural counties. So a place like Cuyahoga, represents a Midwestern opportunity for us to demonstrate that our work can be effective in a large Midwestern city. And I think we also have to be cognizant of the political landscapes that exist in the places where we choose to work. Ohio has had a lot of activity around bail reform in the state legislature this last session, and it seems like there is interest in the issue. And I think our main objective is working to improve the pretrial system by mitigating or eliminating the use of cash bail and finding other pretrial reforms that exist. So if there's a state that's willing to pursue those things at a systemic level like this state is, it's helpful to our work. And it's helpful because we're creating an evidentiary base that can support the larger reform effort that is happening at the state level.
All right, appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Yes, Ms. Turner.
Thank you, gentlemen. I heard about the work that you were doing in Summit County in the Akron area, and I was curious, which is why I'm here. I had a couple of questions. The story that you described with Ms. Tierra and her experience in pretrial detention, what would not having that $500 done in her case? What would have been the impact of that? And the second part of that question is there something disqualifying in terms of your clients having violent charges? And do most of your clients have gainful employment? And is that important for them to get back to?
Thank you for the questions. I can first speak to our client Tierra and her story. I think I'm glad that you brought this question up because it's very important to know what people can lose just spending a day or 2 days or 3 days in jail. At 3 days, your life is already adversely affected. So in her situation, she was already advocating for herself because of dehydration in the prison, and the guards didn't believe her at the jail. So she could have had health impacts of that. So that could have caused harm to herself or her baby. Also, let's not forget that Tierra also has other children that were at risk. So not only could she have caused harm to herself or her baby, her outside children could have gotten JFS involvement, children's service involvement, which is then her being involved in yet another system. Then, as far as you spoke about employment, she could have lost her job. She could have lost her house because she doesn't have an income to pay for her housing anymore. So it's a domino effect to all of the things that you can lose just by seemingly $500. Oh, that's a low bill, but to her that was everything. And our intervention is what helped change that. I'm sorry, I forgot your second question.
Were there disqualifiers maybe for folks with violent charges?
So we do take violent charges very seriously. As Jeremy Tristan mentioned, we have just as much responsibility to keeping the community safe as everyone else does. So we do have a different process for charges that do involve intentional physical violence or any level of violence that involves someone else. And with those cases, the big thing is, or those clients rather, we ensure that they do have a strong support system and a strong support plan. And also we will utilize things that the county is already using. So if that client is say getting out on like a EMU or EMD like monitoring unit, then like we'll utilize that as well as part of our support plan. But there are things that would disqualify it, but again, we look at each client individually. And then to your last point about employment or just any services that I will make it general for any services that any client identifies. We always want to ensure that it's something that the client wants. We can think that someone needs a job because they don't have a job right now, but if they're not identifying that, then we're not going to force that on them. That wouldn't disqualify them from receiving any assistance from the Bell Project. But if they have identified that employment or that their mental health is a service that they need assistance with, or if they have substance use problems or housing, or if they need groceries, even as small as groceries, we will ensure that that client has everything they need to get that need met. And that's where we depend on the community and the services that's already being offered in Cuyahoga.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Just a couple follow-ups with regard to Ohio Issue 1. If either of you can speak to the effects and impacts of that passing in the state and how it will, remove the ability of the Supreme Court to set procedures and how that will impact our local state judges.
The Bail Project publicly opposed issue 1. We are not supportive of that amendment and understand, though, that a significant majority of Ohioans selected that we should do that. But I think the actual impacts of it will be, potentially greater utilization of cash bail amounts that are unaffordable. So you see downstream effects of the jails becoming more crowded as a result of unnecessary incarceration related to people being unable to afford bail amounts that are set against them. Makes our work more essential right now and critical.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the response that we should have heard more loudly before the election. I don't think the word got out. It seemed pretty benign on the ballot, but in effect, it's going to impact hundreds of people sitting in jail. And I think this is a point for us to understand that the county council, I've been saying, can only do so much. I mean, the bail, the bond is all really, any reform will come from the state, and we only can do what we can do here, and this is one way. I thought we would really be able to impact, what happens here in our courts, and appreciate everybody's support in doing this. And I have one more question for one of you about do you work with municipal courts and people who have stays there on short-term bases?
Yes,
Jeremy?
we do work with Muni Court.
Great. Thank you. And I do want to thank the executive for his leadership on this as well, and would really appreciate the time here for you being here on Zoom. Hope to see you in person, and we'll continue this great work to make changes here.
Ms. Conwell.
Yes, thank you. Through the chair to Mr. Page and Mr. Cheerson, I want to thank my colleague, Sonny. I did not know about this project, and so I don't know if we can amend the legislation and I add money right now. I know, but some more from me, from District 7.
You got $10?
I think they want more than $10, but
I got 5 on it.
so I don't know what's the procedure on that. If
I think the
can.
best way to go is if you want, once we pass this, it'll be in front of the council, and at that point, we could,
Amend the
if you
legislation
wish,
then.
I think you might want to take a look at it and cleanly add that as opposed
Okay.
to in committee. It'd give you a couple weeks to do it, a week
Okay.
anyhow.
All right. Well,
Okay.
hope you hear that, gentlemen. I'm willing to commit 50.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Councilwoman.
Thank
you,
you
Councilmember.
very much. Yes, thank you very much.
And we want to see you guys in person at some point.
I am in Cleveland once a month. I'm based in
Okay.
Cincinnati, so I will be in Cleveland the last week of November. If you want to try to align schedules.
Thank you. Just one comment, I suppose, through the chair. It's just hitchhiking off of Councilwoman Simon's questioning to you about working with municipalities. I think that's a kind of an underrated component of this because there are numerous municipal courts in Cuyahoga County and other counties, and sometimes the people there get lost in the shuffle outside of the big county jail system. So I think the work that you guys would do in the county, if you continue that in other municipalities, I think you'd have some willing participants in the way of courts in municipalities. So that's just something to keep in mind. And also mentioning the issue, the state issue that recently passed. Yeah, I mean, one of my big concerns is that when there's a high publicity case, a judge is going to be under pressure to take the new policy into consideration and give these high bails in these situations when it's, fairness is kind of thrown under the bus. So, yeah, I just think that was one. The wording looks phenomenal on the face, but you have to kind of dig underneath the layers of the onion to see what that issue is going to do. And hopefully, with work like the Bail Project Inc., it'll keep the embers burning for bail reform. So appreciate the work you do and appreciate Councilwoman Simon leading the charge on this piece of legislation with these important ARPA funds. Thank you.
Again, I regret that there was no organized opposition to issue one from the state level. It certainly is something that is not going to help us. It certainly will be a hindrance. Again, I would like to thank Councilwoman Simon for this legislation as I reviewed it and saw it. And I would like to have the opportunity to meet you all as well when time permits. But just again to support Councilwoman Councilwoman Simon in this legislation. When I saw this piece, I said this body has always worked to do what we can to impact our jail population. We know that is a core problem, but we have done what we can, whether it's the diversion center, whether it's central booking, and now our opportunity to hear. But as we nibble at the edges of what we can do until ultimately that bail reform is done, whether by those elected officials at the state, local level, those who are outside of this body, that have the ability to impact. I'm just happy to stand here and support where I can and build what we can to to create just a humane environment in our county jail. We are managers, we are responsible, but we also need help. So again, I'm just happy to have contributed, like my colleague, $50,000 to add to this to show the commitment that we have toward this to this initiative and again just to the concept of bail reform in general. So thank you to all and to the administration for their work as well. Thank you.
Okay, I think that wraps it up. Very good. Thank you, gentlemen, for presenting and answering our questions. And I will accept a motion for Resolution 2022-0397 as amended to the full council for second reading.
So moved. Second, Conwell.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Against? Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
And Mr. Chairman,
Thank you again.
I'd like to see my name as well added.
Please add my name.
Please add Turner.
Please add my name as well.
Turner, Jones, Tuma,
My name as well. Thank you.
Whole committee.
Conwell, Gallagher, and I'm sure after Conwell comes forward with that 50,
Yeah,
get more.
it's there.
This is a good step in a direction that we're trying to get to. I was going to ask them a question on the booking, but that's my pet peeve, 24/7 booking. That's when the rubber meets the road. That's when the jail population will truly start filtering to where we know it's going to be. It's not going to be dramatic, but it will be something, and something matters. So we will continue on with the 24/7 booking discussions, further our input with diversion, and hopefully with this, as kind of a baked cake, we can start moving in a positive direction. Resolution 2022-0412.
Resolution number 2022-0412, adopting the Cuyahoga County 2022 to 2027 All Hazards Mitigation Plan.
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Council. Brandy Carney, Director of Public Safety and Justice Services. This isn't as exciting as the last presentation, but I just have 5 slides that I will be brief.
Famous last words.
So, again, good afternoon, everybody. I'm here for our hazard mitigation plan update. If you want to, do I have the clicker? Thank you very much. There we go. So just an overview, emergency management, 4 priorities: preparedness, mitigation, response, and recovery. With the team, usually 80% of their time is done preparing for disasters, being quiet. So the other 10 to 20%, whatever it is, when there's actually a disaster, things that can go smoother for them. My emergency management office works out of the Juvenile Justice Center. There's 11 individuals in that office. Lots of them have been there for a very long time. Great team. Mark Christie's been the leader, the administrator for approximately 6 to 7 years there. They have a really great, strong team there. So I'm here today for our hazard mitigation plan, the adoption of our hazard mitigation plan. Hazard mitigation is reducing risk to life or property resulting from natural or man-made disasters. Just a quick overview for you. FEMA does require that all local governments have an adopted mitigation plan. Every 5 years, the plan has to be updated and adopted again. Once FEMA and let me take a step back. This is where we just went through an adoption. It took approximately 2 years for us to go through the update process. In August of this year, FEMA did approve our plan. And so the process now is that we have to have both the county approve our plan as well as all of the 59 jurisdictions to approve our plan. Since August, we so far have 33 of local municipalities, and we do expect 100% as we have in the past. The reason is when hazard mitigation funding from the federal level becomes available, the plan that the local jurisdiction or the county has to have on file, you have to have an adoption of a plan or a plan in order to receive any federal funding, so any FEMA funding. The mitigation plan, just a brief, these are the different components of a plan. We identify the planning process that we're going to use. We identify risks throughout Cuyahoga County. We prioritize those risks. There's a process and a risk assessment that's done. An example would be mitigation projects that could receive funding, acquisition and elevation for homes. Valley View is a good example. We've done a lot of work with Valley View homes, either acquiesced of the home or elevating the homes. Since 2016, there's been about $10 million in hazard mitigation funding available for Cuyahoga. The process, it's very community-driven input. We work with stakeholders. We hold lots of meetings. We engage them. Everybody's part of the identification process to identify and prioritize risks within the county and to evaluate those plans. There's lots of opportunity for community input. Again, as I mentioned, it's a 2-year process or 1 to 2 year process, so it takes some time, but we want to make sure, since this is the roadmap for the 5 years above, that's going to identify what plans, what projects. And then finally, the next steps, as I mentioned before, we have 33 of our jurisdictions. We're asking for adoption from the county today, from County Council. We'll continue to receive the resolutions from the local jurisdictions. And then, as I said, once we hopefully have 100% adoption, our next update won't be required until 2027, I think it is. And I'm happy to answer any questions if you guys have any.
Questions?
I did have one, Mr. Chair. I'm trying to think in regards to the FEMA update. So 5 years from now, there might not really be anything to update. So do you just turn in the other plan, or how does that work when you're updating?
Sure, through the chairman to the councilwoman. So because we identify risks within the community, we update the plan with projects. There's a lot of mitigation projects that are going on right now currently. Like I mentioned, elevation of homes, storm sewer water, things of that nature. So usually just by nature of how the county functions, there's updates and projects that are in the plan every year that we update or we identify for the future.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything further? Hearing none, no necessity to rush this forward. Resolution 2022-0412, I'll accept a motion for, in a second, if you're comfortable.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on this fantastic presentation?
Thank
Riveting,
you, Council.
Riveting.
Riveting.
And quick.
Riveting.
Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Against?
Thank you.
Thank you. See you in 2027, God willing. Miscellaneous business?